The universe and everything in it obey the laws of mathematics, from planets and stars to flowers and plants, from pyramids and buildings to plucked strings and notes. Everything goes around by the numbers. Over thousands of years, we have came to understand the mysteries of mathematics. That understanding has enabled us to build civilization, develop cell phones, understand our nature, design computers, create dinosaurs, and harness the atom. One of the most beautiful creatures in this world is Nautilus shell. Nautilus is a pelagic marine mollusk of the cephalopod family Nautilidae. There is a little creature that lives inside the shell. At the beginning of their life, the shell seems to be very small. With the growth of Nautilus, the shell grows correspondingly. This growth gives a beautiful shell. How this is possible? And does the shell have anything special? Actually, there is a hidden pattern in this shell that we can find by measuring. Now, we will find how wide the shell could have been as the Nautilus grew. First, we pick an angle and we measure the inner chamber. With the same angle, we measure the outer chamber. Thus, we get measurements as inner chamber 14.5 and outer chamber 46.7. Now, we will do the same process for two other measurements or for two other angles. That is, we doing it for 3 times for 3 different angles. Thus, we get 3 pairs of numbers with 2 measurements each. With the first angle, we get 14.5 and 46.7. With the second angle, we get 23.9 and 77.6. With the third angle, we get 30.7 and 99.5. At the first sight, we can't find any relationship, but there is some relationship between the numbers. We will find what the relationship. So, we will look into the numbers. How? By dividing one number by other number. Thus, we get something interesting. So, in the first pair, we will divide 46.7 by 14.5. Then we get 3.22. In the next pair, we will divide 77.6 by 23.9. Then we get 3.25. In the last pair, we will divide 99.5 by 30.7. Then we get 3.24. Then we can find something in these numbers. When we dividing the second number by the first number, we get a constant 3.2. By rounding, we get 3.2. Thus, we can see that the ratio of the width of these chambers ends up in a constant. That is, the nautilus is growing its shell at a constant rate. Every time it does a complete turn, around about 3.2 times the width of the train ends up sitting in a chamber. So, this ratio gives a beautiful shell. Next, we will see about the concept of infinity.
Concept of infinity, the magical concept. You might imagine that something is abstract as infinity is not very useful. But in reality, infinity offers a way to solve problems that previously would have seemed impossible. For example, if you want to know the distance between UK and New York, you would try and use a ruler on a globe like this. You would have some trouble because of course the world is round and curved. Unlike straight lines are called tricky to measure. Good like in geography classes where the globe and measuring stick, but if rather than just using one ruler you use two much smaller rulers and use how they overlap to wrap around the curve of the earth. Note by doing that, you are not going to get the exact distance between London and New York. You are going to get a much better approximation for it. And you can imagine that more and more ruler that you use, the better you will wrap around the curve of the globe, and the better and the approximation you will end up with it. So, here is the key idea. If you zoom in enough on any curve, it will start to look straight, and if you have an enough number of tiny rulers, you can perfectly measure the length of any curve just by adding up all of those straight lines. Okay, so why did you care? Well, it's not just the earth that's got curves, because everything from the moment of sunlight in the sky to rise and fall of the stock market, to understanding how our human behavior changes over time, of all them rely on the as idea of infinity. Relying on the idea we don't really understand is something that sat comfortably with mathematicians. In 1924, the renowned German mathematician David Hilbert created a famous thought experiment to try and help explain the infinity. So, everything in the universe is related to maths, and everything has an interesting and mysterious proof.
We saw about Nautilus shell and concept of infinity. In this universe, there are many other things that are related to mathematics. We just need an interest in mathematics to understand that. So, develop an interest in mathematics. This will help to discover many new things that will become a milestone in future.